All right, good morning, Integrated 2. Today we're going to be simplifying square roots. For some of y'all, it might be familiar, and if that's the case, then today's going to be a review day, so that's good news. Now, I'm going to be honest, I've looked over this worksheet, and I actually already halfway recorded a video, and then I realized that what this is, in my opinion, is more complicated than it needs to be. So I am going to show you what I think is a much simpler way to do it that might just make more sense. It's a little bit more straightforward. All right, so first of all, let's go through the first one. All right, so we're going to go through square root of 112. I'm going to show you how I would do it. Now, the steps that they have, of course, those are still correct steps, right? They're not telling you something wrong. I'm just going to tell you what I think is faster. All right, so square root of 112. Whenever we are taking square roots of a number, what we are going to do, you're going to find two things that multiply to that number. We're going to break it down. All right, so notice 112 is even, so that means 2 goes into it. So it's going to be 2 times something. Specifically, you could do 112 divided by 2 on your calculator if you don't know what that number is, and it is 56. Next, you're going to think of any two things that multiply to 56. And you can maybe say 7 times 8. All right, and maybe you wonder, why don't we keep going on to 2? Well, that is because 2 is a prime number, right? Remember, prime numbers are a number that the only things that multiply to it are 1 in itself. The only things that multiply to 2 are 1 times 2. Or the only whole numbers, I should say. Okay, so same thing with 7, right? We're done at 7 because the only thing that multiplies to 7 is 1 times 7. So at 8, we can keep going. We could say 2 times 4, and then we could say 2 times 2. All right, so what you need to notice at this point is look down at the bottom. Look at all the prime factors we've got. I've got a 2, a 7, a 2, a 2, and a 2. So I've got 2 times 7 times 2 times 2 times 2. All right, so see how many pairs we have. And remember, order doesn't matter, right? Because 2 times 7 is the same thing as 7 times 2. So it doesn't matter if they're next to each other or not. Just count up our pairs. All right, so I got a pair of 2's right here. And then I've got another pair of 2's right here. All right, again, remember, the order does not matter. They don't have to be next to each other. They just have to be at the bottom. They've got to be those prime factors, those numbers that we said nothing else multiplies to them by 1 in itself. All right, so it's like where we stopped the branch. Okay, so at this point, whatever has a pair, 1 will come outside, meaning one of the numbers. All right, so I had a pair of 2's and another pair of 2's. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this just so where my pairs are all next to each other, just so it's a little bit easier to visualize. All right. Okay, so for each pair, 1, 2 will come outside the square root. And again, this is another pair, 1, 2 comes outside. And whatever is left over, right, whatever did not have a pair is going to stay inside. And then whatever's on the outside gets multiplied together. All right, so 2 times 2 is 4, and then square root 7. And notice that gets to the same answer as them, but to me, it's less steps and it's quicker. All right, let's do a harder one. Okay, first thing we need to know, there's a huge shortcut. Whenever there are letters involved, worry about the number by itself. So we're going to solve this. We're going to simplify this first, and then we're going to do it for each of the variables. And there's a trick to doing it for the variables that I think helps a lot as well. All right, so we're going to break it down the same way. Two things that multiply to 1134. All right, again, it ends in 4. It's an even number, so we can divide it by 2. So it's going to be 2 times 567. All right, well, 567 doesn't divide by 2, so we're going to have to try something else. So maybe try dividing it by 3. So 567 divided by 3. It's going to give you 189. All right, let's try dividing it by 3 again. And that is going to give you 63. So 63 breaks down into 7 and 9, which takes you to 3 and 3. All right, and those are all our prime factors, right? Because look at all of our branches down here. We can't keep going. We're stuck. They're all prime. So let's write all of our factors out. I'm going to write them all next to each other that are pairs, so it's a little bit easier to see. I had 4 3's, and then I had a 2, and then I had a 7. All right, so there's a pair. Whoops. There's another pair. And remember, for each pair, only 1 is going to come outside. All right, so 3 comes out. Another 3 comes out. And then the ones that did not have a pair, right? 2 doesn't have a pair because there's no other 2 that came out. No other 7 came out, so 7 does not have a pair. Those guys are going to stay on the inside of the square root. Last but not least, everything that's on the outside we multiply together. 3 times 3 is 9. Everything that stayed on the inside multiplies together. 2 times 7 is 14. Okay, so that's how we take care of the number, first of all. Second of all, we're going to take care of the letters, those variables. All right, here's the shortcut for the variables. So I see an f to the 5. And again, remember, we're doing it piece by piece. So worry about the number, then worry about each letter by itself. F to the 5. This is all you're going to do. Divide the exponent by 2. The reason you divide it by 2 is because you're taking a square root. So I'm doing the exponent, dividing it by 2. The remainder is important, so don't write 2.5 here. We're going to say it's 2 with a remainder of 1. All right, we're going to dig back to elementary school here. All right, so it's 2, or I should say it equals 2 with a remainder of 1. 2, that tells us the exponent that comes out. All right, you should probably be writing this down before you forget. What this number is, it's called the quotient. It tells you the number of f's that are coming out of the square root. All right, so I've got f squared comes out. It's the exponent on the outside. The remainder is the exponent on the inside. So it is 1. F to the 1 stays on the inside. All right, let's do it with g. G to the 4th. Again, divide that exponent by 2. But that is an even 2, a remainder of 0. All right, remember the quotient tells you what comes outside. So a 2 is coming outside. There is no remainder, so nothing stays on the inside. All right, so we did the number. We did the f's. We did the g's. Okay, let's put everything together. I'm going to circle everything we've got. We did the number. We did the f's. We did the g's. Okay, so everything that's on the outside, we had a 9 on the outside. We had an f squared on the outside. We had a g squared on the outside. And then what was on the inside? We had, from the numbers, we had a 14. And from the letters, we had only an f to the 1. All right. I know there was a lot going on there. I know it seems like a lot. Trust me, it's like half the steps as it is doing it the long way. All right. I know that seems like it was a lot, but that's shorter than what the other way was. Okay, and that would be the answer. So you do the numbers all by themselves, then you do each variable by itself, and then at the end, you multiply everything on the outside, multiply everything on the inside. Let's do some more examples. Okay. First of all, notice this time we actually have a number that's already on the outside. There's really nothing to see there. You're not going to do very much with it. It just sits there and it gets multiplied by whatever else comes out at the end. Again, these are great things to take notes on. Okay. So again, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the number first. All right. So we do the number first. Do the 243 first. We can break that down into a 3 times 81. 81 breaks down into 9 and 9. And those each break down into 3 and 3. Okay, so those are our prime factors. 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Don't forget, we have 5 of them. All right, so that means we have 2 groups of 2 with 1 left over. All right, remember, each group of 2, 1 comes outside. So I've got a 3 coming out. I've got a 3 coming out. Remember, those are multiplied, not added. Never adding with this stuff, only multiplying. And then that lone 3, so we are going to have 1 3 staying on the inside. All right, multiply what came out. So that's going to be a 9, and then a 3 is on the inside. All right, so there's our number. And now we're going to look at each of our letters. So let's look at the x cubed first. So now we're looking at our x cubed. All right, so remember, take that exponent, divide it by 2 because it's a square root. 3 divided by 2 is 1 with a remainder of 1. All right. So 1, that tells us that 1 is going to come out. I don't know where I got g from. This is an x. And then the remainder tells us that there is 1 staying on the inside. All right, there we go. So we've simplified the x part. last part to do here is the y. Whoops. All right, so we've got a y to the 1. All right, so I'm going to do 1 divided by 2. Well, 2 doesn't go into 1, so there's nothing I can do there with the remainder of 1. So that tells us that nothing comes out, and the 1 stays on the inside. Right? Remember, the remainder tells us what stays inside. And this tells us that nothing comes out. So there's actually nothing I could do with that one. It stays as it is. All right, so let's put it all together. Circle what we've got. Remember, this was our number. This was our x's. That's what came out of our y's. So here's everything on the outside. I had a 9 come out from over here. I had an x to the 1 come out from over here. And then on my insides, I've got a 3. I've got another x to the 1. And then I've got my y to the 1. Okay. And then last but not least, don't forget, that 3 that came out at the very beginning, or that 3 that was already there, we're going to multiply it by what's on the outside. All right. So that 3, we're going to multiply it what's on the outside. So we're going to make that a 27x to the 1 root 3x to the 1 y to the 1. All right. And that is going to be your answer. Okay. We got one more. Let's see. I'm going to rewrite it over here. 50 J2K3. J to the second power, K to the third power. All right, here's what we got. So first of all, again, that -4, worry about that at the end. When we're going to break down the 50, we're going to break down the J squared, we're going to break down the K cubed. Okay, so do everything piece by piece. So we're going to do this guy first. So 50 breaks down into 2 and 25. 25 breaks down into 5 and 5. All right, so let's write all of our factors. A 2, a 5, and a 5. All right, so remember, for every pair, one of those is going to come out. So a 5 is going to come out. Whatever's left stays on the inside. Okay, so that's all we had to do for the 50. Let's do the J squared. So we've got J squared. All right, remember, take the exponent, divide it by 2. So we're going to do 2 divided by 2 equals 1. And that's an even 1, right? 2 divided by 2 is just 1. No remainder on that. So a remainder of 0. Remember, this tells us what's on the outside. So there's a J on the outside. And the remainder tells us what's on the inside. There's no remainder, nothing on the inside. So everything actually came out here. All right. And then lastly, we are going to go with the K cubed. So now we got the K cubed. All right, so let's take that exponent, divide it by 2. And that's going to be 1 with a remainder of 1. All right, so this tells us that 1 comes out. K to the 1. This tells us that there will be 1K also staying inside. Okay, let's put it all together. All right, so here's what we've got. And we're going to put them together now. So we've got a 5 on the outside. We've got a J to the 1 on the outside. We've got a K to the 1 on the outside. And then on the inside, we've got a 2, nothing over here, and then another K to the 1. Don't forget, very last step, we did have that 4, or that -4 at the very beginning, so now is the time to multiply it in. Wait until the very end, then multiply in whatever you had on the outside. -4, so we're going to multiply that in. -4 times 5 makes -20. And notice that everything else stays the same. You are only multiplying it by that number that's on the outside. All right, and there is your answer right there. Okay, again, I know my steps, they don't fit perfectly with what is on the worksheet. To me, this makes a lot more sense. If I was there, it would be a lot easier for me to teach it both ways. Honestly, though, if I try to teach it the other way over the computer, my best guess is that all that's going to happen is it's going to get really confusing. And I want to do my best to not confuse you. Okay, board number 3. Got a couple more examples here. Let's see what we got. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to come over here. So we had 2a and then the square root 25a cubed. All right, again, that stuff on the outside, toss it aside, worry about it at the end. So first of all, we're going to worry about the number, square root of 25. All right, hopefully we know what that is. We don't even need to do our tree. We can do it anyways, but right, 25, 5 times 5. So we've got 2 5s. So that tells us that 1, 5 will come out. Nothing stays inside. All right, well, hopefully we didn't really need to do that, right? Because we just know the square root of 25 is 5. But that's a pretty quick one right there. Don't forget about our a cubed. We got to take care of that too. All right, so take that exponent, divide it by 2, right? We're always dividing it by 2 because it's a square root. All right, if we get to cubed roots or fourth roots or different kind of roots, we'll deal with that later. But as long as it's square roots, we're dividing by 2. All right, 3 divided by 2 is 1, with 1 remainder left over. All right, so that 1 tells us that 1a is going to come out. That remainder tells us that 1a is going to stay inside. All right, so there we go. Let's see what we've got. So on our outside, we've got 5, right? And then we've got an a, so we have 5a to the 1. And on the inside, we have an a to the 1, right? There was no numbers left over on the inside. And then don't forget, very end, go ahead, multiply this guy. But you're multiplying it on the outside because it's already on the outside. So I'm going to take that 2a down, multiply it out here. All right, so 2 times 5 makes 10. A times a makes a squared. And then don't forget about my a to the 1 on the inside. All right, so I multiplied 2 times 5 and I got 10. And we multiplied a times a and we got a squared. And then again, that a to the 1, this guy is unchanged, right? I didn't touch that. So that's going to stay as it is. And we are done. All right, one more example. All right, let's see. Negative 5x squared. All right, let me make sure I wrote that right. Yes, I did. Okay, great. All right, that negative 5x squared, again, that stuff out front, toss it aside, worry about it at the end. So we're going to start with the numbers first, just like we always do. We do each number, we do the number on the inside, and then we're going to do each letter by letter. All right, so this 800, we're going to take the 800, worry about that first. And let's break it down. What multiplies to 800? You got 2 and 400. What multiplies to 400? You got 4 times 100. Multiplies to 4 is 2 times 2. And 100 is 10 times 10. And then 10 is 2 times 5. And we got another 2 times 5 over here. All right, so let's write down everything we've got. All right, I'm going to underline it just to make sure we don't forget anything. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2s. And we've got 1, 2 5s. 1, 2 5s. All right, let's see what pairs we got. We got a pair of 2s. We got a pair of 2s. We got 1, 2 left over. We got a pair of 5s. All right, remember, a pair means 1 comes out. So a 2 comes out from that pair. A 2 is going to come out from that pair. A 5 is going to come out from that pair. And then we've got this lone 2 that didn't have a pair, so that one is going to stay inside of our square root. Just like that. All right. And again, everything on the outside gets multiplied together. So I'm going to do 2 times 2 times 5. 2 times 2 times 5. That's going to give us 20. So that is 20 on the outside, square root of 2. All right, let's take a look at our letters. What letters do we got? We've got an x to the 5th. I'll come over here and do that. We've got square root x to the 5th. So we take that exponent, divide it by 2. 5 divided by 2 is 2, with 1 left over. So that 2, that tells us that 2 are going to come out. That's the exponent of what comes out, x squared. That remainder of 1 tells us that 1 stays inside. All right, there we go. And then y to the 4th. Y to the 4th. So we're going to take that exponent, divide it by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and that's just an even 2, right? No remainder. All right, so that tells us that 2 y's are going to come out, and there was no remainder on that. 4 divided by 2, just an even 2, so nothing stays inside. All right, remember, if there's a remainder, that's when you got 1 staying inside. If there's no remainder, that's when they don't stay inside. All right, remember, and notice that it is a little bit different the way we treat the letters than the way that we treat the numbers. It's just a different process, it feels like. Okay. All right. That said, let's look at everything we've got. So from our numbers, we got 20 on the outside, root 2 on the inside. There's our x's. There's our y's. Let's combine everything together. So on our outside, we've got a 20. We've got an x squared. We've got a y squared. And then our inside, we've got a 2. And we've got an x to the 1. All right? And we're almost done. Just don't forget, go back and multiply it by whatever was sitting on the outside back at the beginning. So this guy right here, that negative 5x squared. So I'm going to bring that down, multiply it right here. So multiply our like terms, right? Negative 5 times 20 makes us negative 100. And then I've got x squared times x squared. Remember, we're adding those exponents when you multiply. So 2 plus 2 gives us x to the 4th. And then nothing else is changed. Y squared, 2x to the 1. All right, notice that none of this, or I should say, none of this changed when we brought it down here. That was just a straight copy, right? We're just multiplying the numbers, multiplying the letters on the outside. All right. I know it's a little bit of a tricky concept. Once you get the hang of it, oftentimes it can be pretty straightforward. But if you're having difficulty getting the hang of it, please ask me questions. I want to help. I'm happy to create answer keys for the worksheet and help you with problems tomorrow during class, after class, whenever you need help. All right.